All right, so here's the deal. We're going to talk today about the mechanics of a virtual open house. And my name is Bob Stewart. I work for Brivity. Many of you guys are probably our customers, although I'm guessing based on how many people registered for this. First off, I know this is a hot topic. There's a lot of registrations, and we've already in the room have tons of visitors here. You guys, I'm going to take you through couple of things today. We're going to talk about some of the tools that Brivity has that really go even beyond virtual open houses. And then we'll get into kind of just some like, why do open house, like just some kind of set the stage. Okay. Then we'll talk about marketing some virtual open houses. And then we'll get into the mechanics of actually like setting the landing pages and the registration stuff up. And then we'll talk at the end about like, what should you be doing when you're out doing these things? And look, spirit of full disclosure, you guys, I haven't done one of these. What I do have, though, is access to lots of people that have done these at a really high level. And so over the last 2 weeks, I've been talking to as many agents as we could. We've got agents on Ben Kinney teams that are doing these things and just collecting some of the kind of best advice, right? Now, some of this stuff tactically around marketing, around, the lead capture pages and those sorts of things. You don't have to have ever done an open house to be good at those. And so I'll bring a bunch of stuff there, but we'll definitely, give you guys some ideas around actually doing the virtual open house. Okay. So the mechanics of hosting a virtual open house. And look, if you guys have, been a part of our world for any amount of time, that Ben Kinney's teams and, in 2019, the list isn't out yet, but they're going to be one of the top 2 or 3, maybe even number 1 team in the United States. They did over 3,000 transactions last year, and open houses is a big part of our business. And so when current events started unfolding and we couldn't do these things any longer, we had to immediately kind of shift course and figure out like, all right, how are we going to do these things? And so one of the things that we at Brivity kind of came out of the gates with, because our teams, right, Ben's teams, his 30 teams all across the country in markets just like your guys's, immediately like needed to shift or pivot the way that they did business, especially around open houses, but really just in this new world, right? Like I had one of our expansion partners, she had been calling leads the other day, and one of the people she got on the phone, the guy said to her, like, we'd like to see this house this weekend, but is that even a thing right now? Like, so we've got a lot of consumers out there that are just uncertain. Like, can we even buy and sell real estate in these times right now? And look, I understand from state to state, this is a little bit different. And some of you guys have, more stringent lockdown requirements. And some of you guys, I think don't have any, right? You just kind of, fend for yourselves. But we all are starting to do business different, and our consumers are starting to realize like the things are different, like, and they don't know, right? So one of the first things we did is created these safety pages on your websites. And so everyone, if you're a Brivity client, you guys have these safety pages that talk about some of the features that we developed and really just how real estate is still happening today, right? Things like safe showings and what that entails, and things like being able to request a virtual tour of a home as opposed to having that, seeing that home in person, right? So right away within, a week or 2 of this thing kind of exploding and some of our teams getting locked down, we went to work at Brivity to try to give you guys, tools that you can use during this time. So one of those is just, every single page now on the website, somebody can request either an in-person tour, right? Or maybe they don't feel comfortable with that, or they're not even sure, can I do that anymore, right? And they can request a virtual showing on property. So that's something that every Brivity website, every listing on your websites, you guys have these kind of this stuff, right? You don't have to do anything. We put it into play, and you now have, every listing on your site with the ability for somebody to ask for a virtual showing or ask for an in-person tour. And some of you guys might have to call that person and say, sorry, we can't do in-persons right now, right? And many of you can with some restrictions. I know in Washington we can do them, but only like the agent and one other person through the house at a time. And, lots of things we're doing safety-wise. We also then created these virtual open house registration pages. This idea that, look, normally when you're doing an open house and you're using a Brivity open house registration, you're at the house. right? You're at the house, somebody walks in the door, you've got your registration form built off of the back of your website there. They fill it out while they're at the house. People aren't coming to the houses anymore. And so what we did is we created this, just a little tool for you to be able to create these open house registration pages for open houses that you're going to host in the future. And so we'll go in and look at one of these, and I'll kind of walk you through the mechanics of setting one of these virtual open house registration pages up. But I just want you guys, if you're a Brivity client, to be aware, like, you have the safety page, you have, the ability for everybody to ask for a virtual showing on every listing on your site. You've got these virtual open house registration pages. So there's some tools that we've already put into play for you guys. Now, today, we're going to kind of focus on this tool. So a lot of you guys said, I've never done one of these. The funny thing is that a lot of the agents I've been talking to, Austin up in Toronto, who's Jake down in Sacramento, like, some of the people that are doing these are starting to realize, like, what was I ever thinking? Like, I think when you get good enough at doing one of these, good enough at marketing them, like, the number of eyeballs that you can get on one of these things and the number of interested eyeballs, and as long as you have good calls to action and ways to get people who are watching these things to raise their hand, and we'll talk about some of those, right? You're probably going to be doing these long after things go back to normal, right? And who knows what that's even going to mean, but most people hadn't done these before. And so almost everybody we spoke to is plans to do these well after. And so but some of you guys are uncomfortable, right? The idea, like, you're fine one-to-one with somebody walking in that open house, but the idea that you're putting yourself on a camera and you don't even know who's really on the other end of that thing watching you, like, I know that terrifies Mikey, right? That's why she's like, we get on there. I don't know who's on these things, right? And I'm like, I don't know, just close your eyes and act like you're just talking to yourself. But you guys are going to have to get uncomfortable, right? And if you want to have this as a strategy in your business, especially if it was one before, we've got to figure out how to do them. Here's the other thing I'd say. I talked to Jake, our buddy down in Sacramento. He did his first one a couple weeks ago, and I was like, Jake, how'd it go? And he's like, I don't know, it's pretty miserable, I think. And I'm like, well, what'd you do? How'd you market it? He's like, for the first one, he's like, I really just wanted to try it, right? I knew it wasn't going to be perfect. I didn't do a ton of marketing on it because I just wanted to get a feel for it. Don't worry about making them perfect, right? And the second quote I have on there is something that Ben says to us all the time. Like, we complicate things to justify our inaction. We go, oh, there's going to be a million steps to do one of these virtual open houses, so I just can't do them. And oh, man, when I start thinking about it, what about this thing? And what about that thing? You need to just do one, right? And that's kind of, I'm hoping to give you guys, like, the ability to walk away today and go, okay, I could just do one of these, right? And then I do another one, I get a little bit better at it. And a month from now, because, guys, this is going to be a thing, right? It's going to be a thing for a while, that people aren't just going out to open houses, but people are still going to be buying and selling. And so we need to, hopefully you look back 2 months from now and you're like, I've done 10 already, right? Like, I'm going into number 11 and things are getting better each time. But if you wait for them to be perfect, you're never going to start. Now, the other thing that you start to realize is it doesn't have to be your listing, right? It could be a listing of somebody else in your office. Now, you have to get permission, right? It doesn't even have to be somebody in your office. It could just be another agent. And we'll talk about a strategy that our team in Toronto is using around this idea that it doesn't have to be our listing. But if you're on the call today, you don't have any listings, but you're thinking, like, after we're done, like, that's something I could do, right? And then, wow, I'm comfortable with those types of marketing approaches. Maybe you could do these things when it's not even your listing. I mentioned Austin up in Toronto. It doesn't even have to be one listing. And so our Toronto team, what they're doing is they are basically marketing, like, a set of open houses that they're doing on Saturday. And then what they do is they have a team, right? So they've got a little bit of leverage inside of that team. So they've got one person sitting back at the office, just like I'm doing with you guys right here. And they're kind of managing that webinar, right? Maybe it's Austin, the team owner. Okay, so he's in there and he's saying, hey guys, today we're going to tour 5 listings, right? So our agents are out, and their agents are actually out at those locations, right? And there might be cases where it's the seller out at the location, and they're going to be the one that tours and walks somebody through the house, right? Or their agents are out, or in some cases, they're not even doing actual walkthroughs at the house. They're using something like a Matterport tour to go in. And I want to show, like, I don't Matterport, it doesn't matter to me, right? But like, this is, if I was going to give you guys a tour, and this is, if anybody wants a house in Bellingham, this is Josiah's house. This is his house. It's for sale right now. And if I was doing a virtual tour for you guys, I could pretty easily come in here and just voice over this Matterport tour and say, here's the entry. You know, when you come in, this is where Josiah flops down after a hard day of getting beat up by Ben Kinney at work, right? And then he rolls into the kitchen, and he's got stainless steel appliances. And when he has friends over, he entertains at the cabinet right there. And he could pause and say, one of the cool things about, you know, this, I'll give you these knives for free, or whatever he's saying in here. And we'll talk a little bit about the end about, you know, some of the things we might be talking about, but we're walking them through. So even something where it's like, it's not my listing, but I just go find some agents that in my market that I know use Matterport tours, and maybe I do some virtuals on some of the properties that are out there. Again, I got to get their permission to do that, right? But it doesn't have to be one. So when in Austin's case, right, he's kind of running things from like Command Central, right? And then he's got his five agents who are out at the locations. They're on as co-hosts on the webinar, just like you guys see Mikey here. And I'd basically just be like, okay, Mikey, and I'm going to do this. We've got another, you guys might be able to see another name there for me. I've got my phone dialed into this thing right now. And at the end, I'm going to get up and walk around with my phone tapped into this webinar, right? So could be multiple listings, doesn't even have to be your listing, might not even be you live out there doing it, right? I mean, obviously that's going to be a little bit kind of more engaging, okay? And people can ask questions, but people can ask questions as I was driving through a Matterport tour. So I want just keep this thing in mind, right? This idea of like, especially if you have a team, right? And you're thinking, man, we could go out and we could point all of our marketing, right? Let's say we have got our marketing guns out and we're like, we're going to have 5 open houses. We could point all our marketing guns at broadcasting like all 5 of those open houses kind of in one package. Okay. So let's talk for a few minutes about some of our, like the marketing avenues we have. Now look, everything you've done previously, I think to like market an open house is things you could and should probably be doing, short of maybe like putting out your A-frames, right? Because those are like intended to get somebody to like come to the house and we're not going to be there, or we're not going to be accepting visitors, right? We're just going to be walking through by ourselves. But you could potentially, if you're a Brivity client, you have Quickly already. And so what we're going to start doing with Ben's teams is we'll have our regular sign that goes out, right? We're starting to make different styles of signs for our Quickly riders, and one of them is going to look just like this. Text BK Virtual to 59559 to get a virtual tour of this home. Now, Ben's normal Quickly keyword is Ben Kinney. We're going to switch it out with that call to action, because when we get leads from BK Virtual, we want to know that they drove by, and the reason they kind of did what they did is because they were interested in a virtual tour. Inside of Quickly, we control the message that gets sent back on every listing. Like, it's a default message. It just sends them the price and the bedrooms and the bathrooms and the square footage and your phone number, and you get the lead. But you can actually control what sends to them. So what we'll do here is we'll go out there and it'll be BK Virtual. It'll be the same one for every one of our properties. But on each listing, we'll go in there, and if we've got a virtual open house coming up that weekend, part of what we send back to them as a response will be a link to the open house registration page that I'm going to show you in a minute here. So your signs, right? I mean, those things are out there. People are driving by, and they're probably right now thinking like, God, I'd like to see that house. How would I even do it? Can we even do it? Right? What's going on? I don't know. Is real estate an essential service? Can I buy and sell today? So we're gonna put these out on our listings, like at the location. The second thing you can do, and this is really easy, right? Like, I've done this with 5 of our different EPs in the last couple of days, and it was literally no more than me coming in here like this, right? Taking my open house registration page, and we'll see those in a little bit, right? Posting it as a post on my business page, and then just saying, I'm going to boost this post, right? I want to get this post out in front of some audience. And there's there's a bunch of ways that audience can be formulated. For most of you guys, this is probably going to be the method you're going to go through, right? So I'm in here and I'm like, all right, I've got, this post. We can see it on the right here, right? They're virtual tours for the Ben Kinney Team Atlanta. Okay. And I come in here and I'm going to, this is not going to be a link just to our website. It's going to be a link to the actual virtual open house registration page. Okay. And then these ads are special ad categories. We have to turn that on or your ad will get rejected. If you act like it's not about housing and you try to run that ad out there, they're going to look at it and go, nope, that's about housing. So it's a special ad category. We have to pick the housing ad category. And what that does is it limits the amount of kind of fields you have to target that ad. Because up until not that long ago, you could make targets that are illegal. Like you could literally get yourself in trouble by targeting some certain set of people and excluding other people. And that's a fair housing violation. So we've now got this ad category for housing. Now, here's where you really want to kind of focus is the people in my audience. And so I'm going to go in here. And sometimes when you first come in here, they kind of dial it around your state, right? So if it's dialed around your state, you can just come in here and add a location, right? Maybe I wanted to add Athens, Georgia or something, right? And I could come in here. And so now I'm going 15 miles around Athens, 30 miles around Atlanta, right? And then I can say, well, how wide of an audience do I want to show this ad to? Maybe I want to show, in a 40-mile radius. And what starts to happen is down here at the bottom, we see like in a 40-mile radius around Atlanta and in a 15-mile radius around Athens, we've got about 3.4 million people in our audience set, which is fine. We could run an ad to just all those people, right? Everybody between 18 and 65 or whatever the kind of default age was, 18 to 65. Or we could use some of these interests, behaviors, or demographics. And so there's a couple in here that look, you can play around with this a lot, right? There's a couple in here that I want to kind of highlight for you guys. Like Zillow just took my audience from being 2.8 million people down to about 440,000. But these are all people that have expressed an interest in or liked pages related to Zillow, right? There's a bunch going on kind of under the hood here. This isn't just somebody that found Zillow's page on Facebook and went, oh, I like their page. There's a whole bunch of data they're collecting back behind the scenes. A lot of these are just people out on the internet that have been going to Zillow, right? So this starts to get our audience into a set that's probably more likely to be thinking about what we're putting in front of them. So there's some questions coming in, Carl. We'll deal with your questions in a little bit here, buddy. That's a good one. All right, so what else would I do? How about this guy? How about those? Realtor.com, right? So what did I do? I just added another 80,000 people to my group, right? And I might even come in here and do something like house. Somebody's interested in a house, right? And that gives me 1.3 million. Maybe I say, you know what? That felt really wide, and I dial it back. And I'm going to run my ad to the 520,000 people that have shown some interest in Zillow or Realtor.com somehow under the hood of what, all the crazy data that Facebook collects about us, right? In a 30-mile radius around Atlanta and a 15-mile radius around Athens. I'd save that as my audience, right? Then I just need to come down here and set a budget. So if my total budget, if I wanted to spend $100 trying to drive people to this ad and I was going to spend it over 5 days, right? I'm going to spend $20 a day. Maybe I'd end that thing on May 2nd because my open house is coming up on May 2nd, right? And then they obviously make some suggestions for you, right? Some of this is going to be best done with a good amount of leeway, of lead time, right? Gone are the days where I can say, I'm going to do an open house on Saturday and it's Thursday, right? So you want to have your ad running out there for probably no less than, Facebook is suggesting 4 days, 5, 7, right? The longer, the better. And I'm just going to boost that bad boy. And now it's going to go out there and it's going to be seen by a bunch of people that I don't know already. Now, should I be sharing this stuff on my own Facebook page? Absolutely. Should I be sharing this? Should I give the link to the open house registration page to the seller and have them go out and share it on their Facebook to their audience? Absolutely, right? But if I want to boost it inside of Facebook, there's just kind of a quick tutorial on how to do that. So we'll cancel that ad. I don't think Karen wants me spending dollars. All right, so let's come back in here. And now we're back to the next way we can market our virtual open house. So to your existing database, and I want to, this screenshot that you guys are looking at on the slide deck right here, inside of Brivity today, I could go into my leads section of Brivity, and look, if you're not a Brivity client, hopefully you can do something similar to this, right? And I could just put my leads in order by average view price. So let's say that I was hosting an open house in Atlanta there, and it was a or in this case, a $460,000 listing, right? It might be a really good idea for me to go in, put people, get my database into an order sorted by average view price. And let's just start sending messages or inviting emails, texts to some of those people who've been looking on our website in the past for properties in that 400 range, right? Those would be good potential audience for your open house. Tomorrow, this is like, I can't even tell you how excited I am about this. Well, I'm excited about the totality of it, but tomorrow, if you're a Brivity client, what's going to happen is we're going to drop the first piece of our reverse prospecting tool inside of Brivity. So what that'll do is tomorrow, you'll log into Brivity when we drop it, and we'll let you know in our masterminds group, but you'll be able to go to the filter, right, and run a filter, and you'll be able to say, show me everybody in the database who's looked at a property between 350 and 425,000 ever. Right? What I'm looking at right now is just an average, right? But we're going to actually pull you back and give you results and put on an index. Here's the 287 leads you have in your database that have ever looked at a property between 250 and 325,000. Okay, about a week later, we'll drop bedrooms and bathrooms as another thing you can query again. So you get even more specific. You say, show me everybody that's looked at a property between 300 and 350 that had 3 bedrooms. A week after that, we'll give you area. That'll be the last thing coming, will be what area. So then a couple weeks from now, you'll be able to go into Brivity and say, right, when you're doing open houses 3 weeks from now or 4 weeks from now, you'll be able to say, look, I'm doing my open house in Olympia, Washington. It's a $400,000 listing. I'm going to go in and circle prospect, and this isn't traditional circle prospect, but I'm going to call every lead that we have in our database that's ever looked at a house between 300 and 400,000 in Olympia. And I'm probably going to include Lacey and Shelton and all the neighboring towns as well, right? And those are going to be people that get text messages from us inviting to a virtual open house. They're going to get emails, and they're going to get phone calls from us. So your existing database is an amazing place for you guys to go in and prospect, especially with old leads, especially if you have something like Brivity where you can see that behavior and you can get that behavior into an order where you can actually take action on it. Look, Craigslist posts, circle prospecting, these are things you guys were doing previously, I hope, right? When you had an open house, you'd put it out on Craigslist. Look, we don't just put it on Craigslist once, we put it like 5 times every day, right? When we circle prospect, we're going to, we use Mojo. We're going to pull up we're going to drop a pin on Mojo. We're going to call 150 people around that open house. We're going to invite them to come in and do the virtual open, right? Okay, so here, some of you guys might be thinking, I don't want to do all that. I want to do the virtual opens, but I don't want to do the marketing on this stuff. I'd rather somebody just help me drive people to these. We can help you with that. So this is brand new. We've started doing this for our Ben Kinney expansion teams. And I was just talking to Grant this morning about kind of the intricacies of this. And I may even have Grant come back in a week or two on a call and talk about specifically like what we're doing here. But we've created kind of campaigns around helping you drive visitors to your virtual open houses. But here's the deal. This is not a one-off thing. This is something for teams that have a strategy that not necessarily every single week, but there's going to be a volume of open houses like week after week after week. And one of the reasons why is we're not, now listen, you should do, when you have an individual open house, you should boost a Facebook post. You should go into the database and call into people that might meet that criteria of that house. What we're going to do is we will take and help you build out, you have to have a strategy again. right? So you're saying, all right, next weekend we're going to do these 3 opens, the weekend after we're going to do these 3, and the weekend after we're going to do these 3. What we'll help you do is build a page on Brivity where all of those open houses into the future are showcased, and then we'll start driving the traffic towards that kind of landing page. So if you text "just do it" to 59559, you'll get back just a link. It'll be to get you on Grant's calendar to go talk to him about what this program looks like, you know, what kind of the criteria is, right? Some of the things I've been talking about, it's not just one open house you plan on doing, but it's actually a strategy you guys want to deploy, and we'll help you market those. Now, you should still, on top of that, probably be marketing each individual open house, but we're going to have kind of a cumulative open house marketing strategy or virtual open house marketing strategy for you guys, and we can help put that into play. It's not for free, obviously, right? But cool stuff like taking your existing database and running custom audiences and running remarketing ads towards them, and then doing, you know, kind of individual driving ads back towards these kind of compilation pages with all of your stuff. All right, so let's talk about like kind of the registration option, right? Like when I'm marketing this stuff, I'm driving them somewhere so they sign up. So one, I get them in my database as a lead, right? 2, they now kind of have the ability to come attend the open house with me. And I would say there's like 2 ways to do this. And I hesitated even giving you the second way, which is to have them directly sign up at Zoom. And maybe here's why I ultimately decided to do it, okay? Some of you guys don't have good enough leverage in your life that you're able to do what I really think is required if you were going to use the virtual open house registration pages, okay? So let's say that those were the 2 options. And look, there are potentially other options. GoToWebinar, some different places that you might actually host these webinars, right? But we got to capture the information of the people that are planning to attend. So we could do it through the Brivity virtual open house registration pages. Let's talk about if we did it directly through Zoom. We just said, look, we want them to be on Zoom. We know that if they register on Zoom, they then get an email right away. They get a reminder from Zoom the day before. They get a reminder from Zoom the hour before, right? That might be a way that some people approach it. However, if they did that, they're not in the database, right? A direct sign up on Zoom is not going to get somebody directly into your database. You'd have to go in, pull that list down from Zoom, and then manually add them, or maybe do an import into Brivity, into your database. But they got signed up and now they get those reminders. More likely they're going to show up on Saturday while you're actually doing that walkthrough. On the other side, the Brivity virtual open house registration pages, let's walk through kind of what that looks like and how you set one of those up. And then I'll talk kind of the mechanics right at the end of this is why I even introduced that idea of sending them directly to Zoom. Okay, so bear with me for a second. Let's go. So let's say I'm on bktsouthsound.com. This is Gail's website, right? So Gail's going to host an open house this weekend on this property here in Seattle, listed at $950,000. Okay, so she's going to find that property on her website, and then she's just going to come up here and she's going to say /open house. And when she does that, she hits enter, right? She's taken to this page. Oops, give me a second. She's taken to this page right here, where I can now create an open house registration form, okay? The option I want to pick here, right? We've got our light and full registration, which is that if we were actually doing it at the location and they were walking in the door. We're going to use the virtual open house registration option. We got to pick a time, right? So we can hit the little, when is it? That's going to be Saturday, right? From 1 to 2 is when we're doing our virtual open house walkthrough of this particular property. Now, right here are the instructions of how they could join us. So let's say you're like, forget Zoom. I don't want to do all. I'm just going to do it on Facebook Live. Awesome. You just put a link to your Facebook page right there and be like, hey, make sure you check my Facebook page out at 1 o'clock. Right? Maybe just be a link to your Facebook page, and they'd go there, and at 1, they'd see your live video pop up. Probably not I would tend to lean towards something like Zoom. You guys are joining me here. You can kind of see how this works. I'm going to take you around like if I was the agent out walking around the halls of our office here in a minute. But think about this. What if I was sending them now? I said, look, okay, hey, thanks for registering. the open house is going to be hosted on Zoom. Now I could do it as like a non-register Zoom and just say, here's the link that you come to at 1 o'clock. If I did it that way, I'd have to make sure I had some mechanism in place, maybe an auto plan inside of Brivity to send them a reminder the day before, to send them a reminder the hour before, right? And those could be text messages or whatever. Or if I wanted to have this Zoom webinar style like we have right here, like you guys did to get to this, here's the way I would do it. I would just tell them, like, all right, open house is going to be on Saturday. Keep an eye out for a link from Zoom to show you where to go. Then when I got their information, I would actually take it over and I would input it into Zoom myself. And the reason why is because I wouldn't want to just have this message, and they get emailed this same message, by the way, when they sign up, but I wouldn't rely on them to then go register themselves for my open house on Zoom that I was going to have, right? But I would want them to get that reminder the day before, the reminder the hour before. So if I was doing this, I would use these virtual open house registration pages. I would have the instructions just be generic, letting them know the time and the date, and then tell them to check their email, keep an eye on their email, because we'll send them the actual instructions for the call that day later, right, in the next hour. But then I would go into my Zoom and I'd register them. That way they're now in my Zoom, right? They're going to get the reminders. I've got them in the database. They originally signed up on this open house page, which, by the way, does the same thing it does when somebody walks into our open house, right? Feeds them into the CRM, sets them up on a listing alert similar to the property that they were looking at when they signed up. So this person coming into my CRM is going to get a listing alert in Seattle, plus or minus some percentage. Now, this is ultimately what the form looks like. So this is the form that I'm going to take out. Right? This is the link that I'm going to use that I'm going to take out and mark it in some different places. Now, somebody said, somebody asked a question like, okay, I set one of these up and then I went and used it. And then when I went back and I wanted to use it again, I wasn't sure how to get the same link. You need to save that link, right? This becomes something, I don't know, if you're a Brivity user, you put it on the notes in the transaction section for this transaction, right? You need to save that link somewhere because I'm gonna use it today, and then tomorrow I'm gonna make a bit.ly short one on it, or maybe I'm gonna go buy 123mainstreet.com and that's where I'm gonna drive everybody, right? And it's gonna be a forward to this page. But this link, once you get it, like, save it. You could do another one. You could go back to that same open house, recreate it, and have a second landing page on the same open house. It's fine. Right? But make sure you kind of keep track of this link that we created after we came through here and made all the selections, added our tags, right? So if I was going to run this on Facebook boosted post, I might do a Facebook boosted post. I might do a different version of this landing page to go run on Craigslist and have a tag in that one that said Craigslist. So I know that virtual open house lead came in from Craigslist. Well, this virtual open house came in from my Facebook boosted post. Don't worry, we record this, guys, so you can go back and listen to it. I know I fly through this stuff. I get excited. All right. So there's the virtual open house registration page. All right, let's come back in here. So once they're registered, they get the message that we put in there, right? And then they get an email with the same message that we had crafted in here, lands in their inbox in an email, right? But we may want to take that extra step, and if we were using like a Zoom, kind of webinar room or something like that, that we would then go register them for that. All right, let's talk about like doing the virtual open house, right? So Ben and I were talking this morning, and he shared this idea that one of our teams was using. I hadn't really heard yet. And look, so when I do a Zoom webinar like this with you guys right now, I could choose if I wanted to right now to broadcast this thing live on Facebook. And so what one of our teams is doing is they do that. They broadcast this thing live on Facebook, right? So people were in there and they registered, and we know who those viewers are. Then we broadcast that thing live on Facebook. So now we've got a bunch of viewers potentially, and we don't know who they are. Then what they do is they have everybody on the team, or anybody that they kind of have like control of, right? Not that you have control of the people on your team, but like they get as many people kind of in their world as they can to then go share that live video. Okay, so now let's say I had 5 agents on my team, right? Let's say we're even all out at the locations doing it, right? Austin's back at home base. He makes this thing live on Facebook. The agents all go into the Facebook page that we shared it from, maybe our business page, right? And they share that post now to their Facebook page. So now we've got this live post out there, not just in front of the one page we're hosting it from, but in front of all the shares from our people's pages, right? I'd have the seller doing the same thing. If the seller had friends or family that'd love to see them sell their house, I'd have them doing the same thing. We're trying to get as many people kind of creating, this echo chamber inside of Facebook. Okay. Practice. Like before you do this the first time, just practice a little bit. Maybe just practice with like a spouse or your kids. You make them sit there and like watch you do it. But the mechanics of the whole thing, right? Take yourself all the way through one of these. You don't want to be coming into this cold the first time you've ever like tried to use Zoom on your phone, right? I think an extra set of hands can be crucial. Obviously, in Austin's scenario up there in Toronto where they're doing these kind of multi-agent, they have to have somebody kind of running point, right? I think if you have an extra set of hands, I think it would be a good thing, right? Somebody maybe like paying attention to the chat right now, like Mikey's doing with some of you guys, right? If I had a bunch of people that had registered on this thing and they were actually in the Zoom room and they were able to chat, or if it's out on my Facebook and there's people now asking questions that are watching on the Facebook, I would want that extra set of hands to be able to kind of keep up with all of what was happening. And then I'd never heard this word even before, like a couple weeks ago, we did a webinar with my buddy Kevin, a gimbal, Gimbal. A gimbal is something that you hook up to your phone and it smooths out any movement in your phone as you actually move through the home. Gimbal. You can get a gimbal for like 40 or 50 bucks, like a really nice one, right? But you just attach it to your phone. Who's this? Yeah, Susan's like, love my gimbal. Yeah, it makes you feel like it makes you feel professional in some ways, I'll bet, Susan, right? Like, I bet Susan could never go back to just walking through a home. My wife would tell you, like, I can't. I'm a little bit, you guys can tell, I'm a little bit agitated. I'm a little bit shaky. Like, it probably wouldn't look that great, right? I would definitely need a gimbal. You're going to see here in a minute. All right, so what should you talk about? Ben wanted me to really drive this home for you guys. Like, you should not just get there and then just walk through the house and just be like, here's the kitchen, and it's got really great stainless steel appliances. And at this point, you're like doing a one-to-one open house. You could maybe be boring because they're in the house and they're kind of more engaged in the house than they are in you. When you're doing something like this, you have to have a little bit of panache, like something, right? So maybe it's interesting stories or funny facts about the area, right? Maybe it's highlighting some of the seller's favorite things. Maybe it's talking about the neighborhood in addition to just walking somebody through the house. One of our teams is doing stuff where, like, as they have people live watching, they're doing stuff like, one of the things you'll notice about this house is it's got these amazing archways. Does anybody know what the style of architecture that these archways are designed in is? We're doing a $5 Starbucks gift card for the first person that can tell us what style of architecture is this, right? Just kind of baking in something fun or a reason for people to watch, trivia questions throughout, right? One of the teams was doing like, if you spot, so they'd given people at the beginning like a list of like 10 things, like if you spot any of these 10 things, like be the first person to say, I spotted the umbrella, right? And they were giving out $5 Starbucks gift cards for trivia, for if I spot. And then this last one is really, really important. During the time that you're actually delivering it, I want you guys to always be thinking there's somebody on here that's watching that right now wants to know how to take the next step. Okay, this is where your extra set of hands comes in, because if I was walking through the house, right, I might even be flipping it around to my face and saying, listen, if there's anybody right now that's watching this and 15 minutes in is thinking, this house is amazing, I love this house, I want you to shoot me a text. I just dropped my cell phone number into the chat. Shoot me a quick text. We can get you out here for an actual in-person visit, and we'll do it safely, and we'll make sure we got masks and one person through the house at a time, and we'll open all the doors and everything so you don't have to touch anything. right? But I'll send me a text right now. Another option for you guys, if you're Brivity clients, is a quickly kind of call to action, a keyword, a quickly instant keyword, right? So, hey, listen, if you're watching this right now and you're thinking, I want to walk through that house with me, I want you to text right now to 59559. Okay, our team will call you in the next 30 minutes, and we'll get you guys set up for a time that you can come in and safely walk through this home in person. That right there. So we had a team like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago had done one of these, and then they just picked up this call to action. We were going to like lace it throughout the entire walk. They had like 2 or 3 people, I can't remember, 2 people text them. Like, she just said, I'm going to drop it in. I'm going to drop my cell phone number in the chat. Text me right now if you'd like to come look at this house in person. Okay, it's really smart kind of, because I think a lot of times we just think, oh, they're here. If they like it, they'll know what to do. Maybe not, right? Maybe not, especially if there's somebody like, what if they're watching it because your seller shared it, and now they're watching it on their Facebook page, and they're just like, who is this person even walking through the house? I don't even know their name. All right, so if you're not a Brivity client, okay, if you're thinking like, wow, they seem like they got some decent tools there that I might want to use in my business, this is where I want you to go. And Mikey's going to share the link here to go kind of basically what you can do is kind of check out our virtual package, right? These new things that if you're a Brivity client, you already have. Don't go here if you're a Brivity client, okay? But you can head over and get some information about Brivity. And then if you'd like to take a demo of our software, of our product, guys, there's a million other things in Brivity I didn't talk about. We have a dialer, and we've got this cool design tool that allows you to create designs. And we've got an automated postcard tool that allows you to send postcard out, and the quickly call text to lead stuff, and the website and the virtual stuff, and on and on. That's where you can go to get some information about it. Throw your name in there, and we'll have somebody reach out to you. And if you wanted to do a tour or set up a tour. The last thing, Sean's saying in New York, we're not even allowed to do any in-person showings. Can't even park in the driveway and open the door. So I mean, you guys are at this point, it's, limited to like your sellers probably walking through the house. You guys might not even be allowed to go out to those houses, but I just now I need my seller to be able to figure out, and I got to do a little bit of a training with them and get them walking through the house, and maybe drop my gimbal off, with a bunch of hand sanitizer sprayed on my gimbal or something. I don't know. All right. I want to really quick, I'm going to take you guys now, and I'm just going to you guys are in here, right? You could have just as easily been somebody that we drove here to do this Zoom call, and I now could come over here, I think, and let me see if this works. I'm going to start my video. So Mikey, you see me now again, right? And I'm going to mute myself, unmute myself over here, and I'm going to, I don't have a gimbal, so you guys will see how shaky I am. Mikey, can you hear me okay? Can you pop in there real quick and let me know if you can hear me all right?
Yep, sound good.
All right, I need to stop sharing my screen because we're done looking at that, right? And so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take you guys down here. He's probably, I think his door's shut because I think he said that he was doing an interview with Inman or something. So I'm going to walk you through. This is our office, right? And there's nobody here, so the lights are all off and everybody's socially distancing. So you won't see anybody. That's where we eat and stuff, right? And down here in the big corner office, and yeah, his door's shut. He's in there doing a webinar. That's where the magic happens. We got our cool little book room over here where Ben always makes suggestions on books we should read, but he doesn't just tell us to go buy them. He actually buys them for us. And so you can see all the books that anybody at any given time. What's the newest one? Engaged Leadership, it looks like, from Clint Swindoll is one of our new ones. Right? I mean, I'm just walking through the house with you guys. This is the end of it, right? I mean, this is where you guys see me doing this webinar, walking through life. Here's what I want to close with, you guys. You're going to be doing these long after this is over. But right now, this is the only way you can do these. So if you haven't done one of these, spend the next couple of days practicing. right? We'll send you out the recording. You can watch this thing again. Do one. Like, I would love in a couple of weeks for us to show up and talk about something else. And I'm going to ask the question, how many of you guys have done an open house? And a bunch of you guys raise your hand. So I'll give you back 15 minutes of your day here. Go start working on this. We'll have the recording out to everybody pretty soon. If you're not a Brivity client, Mikey will maybe send out the link again through chat for everybody to go and check that out. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. Wash your hands, be safe, and we'll talk to you guys again really soon. Bye, everybody.